Good evening. I'd like to call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on Tuesday, September 28th, 2021 at 7 p.m. to order. Before I begin, I have some introductory remarks. Hello and welcome. I'm Chair Adam Miller, and I'll be presiding over this meeting. As we begin, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items for the Commission, applicants, and members of the public present tonight remotely. Applicants attending remotely will be muted by staff until their agenda item is called. Once called, the applicant will be unmuted to make their presentation and answer any questions of the Commission. When your item is complete, means it has been voted on, you are free to leave the meeting. Public comment will be solicited during each actionable agenda item. Once I ask for public comment on a specific item, please click your raise hand in the GoToWebinar in order to make public comment. Before being individually identified, all members of the public will be muted. Village staff will announce the speaker by stating their name and unmute their audio to allow up to 3 minutes for public comment. When called, please state your name and address for the record and proceed with your comment, speaking clearly during your allotted time. Just some important notes: please limit your background noise to the extent possible. When speaking, please be sure to identify yourself so that we know who is speaking, and do not use the chat or question function in the GoToWebinar, as these functions will not be monitored during the meeting. And as a reminder, this meeting can be viewed live on Comcast Local Channel 18 or streamed at royalpalmbeach.com/YouTube. So next is Pledge of Allegiance. If we could all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Christina, can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Adam Miller.
Present.
Vice Chair Philip Marquis.
Present.
Commissioner June Perrin. Present. Commissioner David Leland.
Present.
Commissioner Ray Nazareth.
Present.
Laura McClellan, alternate 1. Present. Gerald Brown, alternate 2.
Thank you, Christina. I need a motion for the minutes from the last meeting.
Make a motion we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Motion made by Commissioner Marquis. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Perrin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes pass 5-0. Okay, so now on to our agenda items. The first agenda item is application number 21-77 AAR, South Florida Foot and Ankle. The applicant, Designs to Go, is requesting architectural approval for a color change for the tenant panels on an existing monument sign for property located at 11412 Okeechobee Boulevard. Mitty, it's over to you, please.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Cesar Sanchez.
Thank you, sir. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Can you raise your right hand for me? I need to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Bradford, do you as well?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte disclosures with regard to application 21-77 that need to be disclosed at this time.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mitty. Bradford, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. The applicant is requesting architectural approval for an existing monument sign for a medical office complex located at 11412 Okeechobee Boulevard. The applicant is proposing PMS 287C, blue panels with white lettering, as you can see here on this slide. Staff is recommending approval.
Excuse me, Bradford. We can't see the
Can't
slides
see the
on our
slide.
screens. Sorry.
No.
We're going to take a little intermission, sir.
It's okay, I can show you. And I also have vinyl so you guys can see the color.
We appreciate it. You could have a seat if you want to relax for a few minutes, and we'll just be a few minutes. Thank you.
You got it.
Yay, thank you,
you.
everyone. Appreciate it. Bradford, I think it's back to you, sir.
Okay, from the top. Again, this is a site that's located at 11412 Okeechobee Boulevard. Here is the sign that the applicant is proposing. It's in my way. And here's the sign here, and staff is recommending approval of this application. I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. Appreciate it, sir. Does the applicant have a presentation on the project?
Basically, what we're doing is a phase change. They had like a green color, and the customer wants to change to this blue. It's a translucent blue. I have some samples if you guys want to see it. Put it against your screen so you can see how it lightens up with the light. But I have some samples. Basically,
like
it's
to
just going to
see a
be
sample.
reverse.
I think Commissioner Nazareth
I'd
would
like to see a sample, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If you put it close to your screen, you will see how it kind of it doesn't with the LED. It's even brighter. The screen doesn't really show us. But
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions, comments, or discussion? We'll start with Commissioner Leland. Commissioner Perrin.
No comments or questions?
Commissioner Marquis.
No.
Commissioner Nazareth.
None at this time.
I do not either. I'm going to open the floor to public comment on this item. Don't see anyone in the audience for public comment. Christina, do we have anyone online? Okay, I'm going to close the floor to public comments. Can I have a motion on this item, please?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve 21-77 as read.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Nazareth. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Marquis. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so
Congratulations,
much.
sir.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Appreciate you.
Good luck, sir.
Okay, we're going to go on to the next item, which is application number 21-74 LW, Raising Cane's. The applicant, Raising Cane's Restaurant LLC, is requesting a landscape waiver from section 15-133B2, perpendicular divider strips to allow 4 trees to count towards the required 9 trees within a perpendicular divider strip along north property line. A waiver of 5 trees for a property located 100 North State Road 7. Mitty?
And anybody who's going to be speaking on behalf of this item, can you go to the podium? And can you one by one state your names for the record, and then I'll swear you all in at once?
Joni Brinkman with Urban Design Studio.
Adam Karachi with Raising Cane's.
Good evening. Christina Belt with Kimley Horn.
Stephanie Kinlan with Kimley Horn.
Lindsay Jean Lewis with Urban Design Studio.
Thank you, and I'll swear you in for all of your items on the agenda tonight. Do you all swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. I'll turn back to the commission and ask for ex parte disclosures with regard to 21-74, the landscape waiver.
Done.
No.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mitty. Bradford, over to you, sir.
Great, thank you again. The applicant is requesting a landscape waiver from Village Code Section 15133B2, perpendicular divider strips. This code section requires landscape divider strips to run perpendicular along dimension of the parking space, which shall be 5 feet in width and contain 1 tree every 15 linear feet. Here circled on this slide is the area that we are speaking of. The applicant contends that the landscape design goal is to utilize the existing trees, palms on the site as they provide greater maturity and ecological value than younger trees. Also in the effort to not promote bad arboricultural and horticultural practices, we do not want to overplant more trees in the existing tree and palm beds. These beds have large mature root zones, which additional plantings will impact and constrict their continued growth and sustainability. The existing tree palm spacing is roughly 20 feet on center, whereas the code states a maximum of 15 feet on center spacing. The deficient tree amount is 5 trees due to the spacing based on the village's calculation of 3 palm trees equal 1 shade tree. The southern and western landscape buffer areas do not contain a large amount of excess mature trees after already meeting site landscape requirements, and that's the end of quote. Staff is recommending approval of this landscape waiver and generally concurs with the applicant's assessment. Staff believes that this is the minimum waiver necessary to allow reasonable use of the property. Therefore, staff requests a recommendation of approval be submitted to Village Council regarding application 2174 LW. And with that being said, I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you, Bradford. Appreciate it, sir. Does the applicant have a presentation on this project or this item?
Thank you. I do have a presentation, but I consolidated the PowerPoint presentation to accommodate all the applications. So this one's kind of at the end. We actually have 4 palm trees and then 3 canopy trees, and our landscape architect in regards to this waiver was concerned about the impact of having to plant additional trees to the existing root system. Staff is supporting the request, so perhaps at the next item I'll just go through the whole thing and then we can address the items individually with motions.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, great. Thank you. I'll open it to the commissioners for questions or comments. Commissioner Leland? No. Commissioner Carmen?
No comments.
I just have a comment. Thank you for keeping the older trees. We appreciate keeping those older trees around. Commissioner Markey?
I have a similar comment too. Thank you for keeping the trees, and also Royal Palm Beach is known for our trees. Okay, so I want to thank you once again.
Great, thank you. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Anyone in the public? Nope. Christina, anyone online?
No.
Thank you. I'm going to close the floor to public comment. I'd like to request a motion made on this item.
I'll make a motion we approve application number 21-74.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Marquis, seconded by Commissioner Leland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We are moving right along, folks. Okay. The next item, application number 21-31 SVAR Raising Cane's. The applicant, Raising Cane's Restaurant LLC, is requesting sign variances from 1, Section 20-64E to allow for 2 menu pricing signs in the drive-thru where the village code allows only 1 menu pricing sign, a variance of 1 menu pricing sign, and Section 20-95 to allow for wall-mounted cabinet signs of 30.7 square feet where village code limits cabinet signs to 10 square feet, a variance of 20.7 square feet for a property located at 100 North State Road 7. Long agenda item. Okay, Minnie, over to you.
Thank you, sir. The applicant's been sworn. I'll ask the board, or excuse me, the commission, if there are any ex parte disclosures with regard to 21-31.
No.
Nope.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mitty. Bradford, over to you, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to have to push the pause button. They set up this folder to pull from our Planning and Zoning Commission folder from upstairs, and it's not allowing me to pull my presentation. So let me run upstairs real quick, and I'll be right back.
No worries. I think Commissioner Nazareth is going to tell some stories while we wait. So.
Absolutely.
We appreciate everyone's patience this evening. Thank you.
No, look at the screens. What does my name say? Just the conference room. If you can't find it, don't worry. They know who I am already. That's a bad thing.
I'll call you conference from now on.
Yep. Okay, not a problem. Not a problem.
Committee,
Okay.
are we allowed to ask them what kind of restaurant food they serve?
Yes, but we should wait till Bradford comes back.
Oh,
Wait till they're
okay.
making their presentation. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well, they did that because she went to
Sign variance, right? Okay. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 2060 for E to allow for 2 total menu pricing signs, where only 1 menu pricing sign is permitted by village code within the general commercial zoning district. The applicant contends that, quote, the proposed development includes 2 menu boards to accompany the 2 drive-through lanes. The dual menu boards are a necessary component of the redevelopment of the property, as they increase the efficiency and functionality of the use of the site. While both menu boards will be utilized, cars with orders placed the outside lane will merge into the lane adjacent to the principal building, where they will be serviced at the payment window on the eastern portion of the building and the pickup window at the western portion of the building. We'll have attendants with iPads that will process payment and deliver orders to the vehicles in the dedicated striped paths as shown on site plan. 12 total queuing spaces are to be provided for both lanes, with 4 queuing spaces located before the menu board in each lane. The estimated time to be spent in the drive-through from the entry to exit should be no more than 1 minute and a half. Thus, the applicant is respectfully requesting a variance to allow 2 menu boards at this site. Here's an illustration of the menu board. For the second variance request, the applicant is requesting a variance from section 2095E to allow for 30.7 square foot wall-mounted cabinet signs, where village code prohibits wall-mounted cabinet signs in excess of 10 square feet. The applicant contends the applicant is also requesting a variance to allow 30.7 square foot wall-mounted cabinet signs, which depicts the trademark Raising Cane's logo, which is consistent with the national branding. Discussions with village staff have confirmed that the red background area is considered a cabinet sign, since the national branding incorporates this red area along with the channel letters as a single logo, the total area of the sign being considered under the cabinet sign definition. In order to achieve the proper legibility and visibility along with consistency with national branding, the waiver for an increased allowed cabinet sign areas to be requested. It is important to note in regard to this request that if the sign proposed were considered a channel sign, the sign face area that would be allowed would be calculated on the linear facade length of the building and allow for a channel sign of up to 40.2 square feet. However, in this case, the request to incorporate the standard branding for this user actually provides for a decrease of 9.5 square feet compared to the maximum allowed for a channel sign. As such, the request to allow for a similar cabinet sign as compared to a channel sign is warranted and will not have any negative impact on the surrounding area. The criteria for granting the variance is set forth in section 2632F6B. Specifically, special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, and building involved, do not result from the actions of the applicant, will not confer on the applicant any special privilege. Little provisions of the division would deprive the applicant by other properties. That the variance granted is a minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the division, it will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise be detrimental to the public welfare. Village staff is in general agreement with the justification of variance 1 regarding the additional menu pricing sign for the split queue drive-through, and that 2 menu pricing signs are important to operation of 2 drive-through lanes, and that the special condition and circumstance are peculiar to the site which are not applicable to other lands within the same zoning district. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of variance request number 1 to allow the second menu pricing sign. Village staff is recommending denial of variance request number 2 regarding the wall-mounted cabinet signs. Village staff feels as though the criteria for granting this variance request have not been met. Village staff is not in support of this variance because staff believes that no special conditions or circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands. Granting of the variance will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands. The literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant of the rights enjoyed by other lands in the same zoning district, and is not the minimum variance necessary to allow reasonable use of the property. Therefore, staff requests a recommendation of approval variance request number 1, a variance from section 2064E, menu pricing signs, and recommendation of denial for variance request number 2, a variance to section 2095E, cabinet sign to be submitted to village council. With that being said, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. That was a long one, huh?
Yeah, I want to go get some dinner.
Yeah. Thank you. So does the applicant, I know, has a presentation now.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I'll just go through the whole presentation.
Sure. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Bradford's already went over 2 of the variances that we're requesting in conjunction with this application. In all, we're requesting 4 different approvals, including the major site plan modification, special exception, architectural review, which we do have support from staff, to allow a 3,633 square foot restaurant inclusive of outdoor dining area.
We have to switch the.
Should I hit?
Can you give her permission, Christina,
Should I
please?
hit? Should I do this? Is it now? Can you see it?
There we go.
Okay, thank you. That's inclusive of outdoor seating area, which is, as we all know, become very important with COVID recently. The parking variance for a reduction of 3 spaces in regards to what's required, and the signage variances that Bradford just went over, and the landscape waiver that you've already heard and recommended approval on. The site is located at the old Target PCD shopping center, for those of you who remember that. It is at the northeast corner of State Road 7 and southern 2 major arterial roadways within Palm Beach County. On the aerial there, you can also see Christ Fellowship Church. They took over the Target building a while ago. And the site is about 1.3 acres in size. In regards to the zoning associated with the village's land use and zoning districts, the 3 corners surrounding the intersection are commercial and commercial general. The site to the east of the PCD is industrial, and then to the south, immediately at the corner, is unincorporated Palm Beach County, which also has commercial uses with residential to the east. A little bit of history. Again, for those of you who are around, in 1991 here, Kenny Rogers was the first restaurant that was in that facility. I was here. In 1996, plan approval was granted. Bought the Target building, and it's currently process of establishing their closing date, so they will be closing shortly. So we're hoping to be able to gain approval and have a new restaurant there very, very shortly. At this moment, if you don't mind, I would like to introduce Adam Karasi. Since the village is not familiar with Raising Cane's, they're new to South Florida. We wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the corporate culture and the founding operator of the chain. So, Adam.
Thank you. Commissioners, I appreciate your time this evening. As Joni said, I'm Adam Karachi with Raising Cane's. I'm based out of the Dallas Restaurant Support Office, and I felt it important to be here this evening to introduce us, since we are new to your community and to South Florida. Yep. So, Raising Cane's was founded in 1996 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana by Todd Graves. To this day, Todd is the owner of the company, and it's still family owned. So these aren't franchised restaurants. These are corporately run restaurants, and they are run at the local level by regional staff that report back to Dallas. The company was named after Todd's dog, Kane, and he had this idea that he wanted to start a restaurant. He went to LSU, And basically, he had this crazy idea for chicken fingers, which was not really a common thing at the time. And so nobody was doing it in Baton Rouge, and he pitched it as a business idea to one of his college professors, and they said, that'll never take. Well, 25 years later, we have over 600 restaurants. So the idea behind it has always been hard work and building something from the ground. Todd went to California and to Alaska to work as a boilermaker and then a sockeye fisherman to raise the funds to develop his first restaurant in Baton Rouge. Primarily, the restaurants have been in the Southwest and the Western U.S., but we are expanding into Florida, and Royal Palm Beach would be one of the first restaurants in the state of Florida. We are very involved in the community. I know a lot of people say that, but we actually have 5 core areas that we like to give back to: entrepreneurship, animal welfare, obviously, and a whole host of others. Sorry, I had a brain freeze there. But they're on the slide here. This restaurant will have dedicated community involvement. So you'll have area managers that are responsible for community service and for reaching out and hiring people locally. We'll hire managers locally, and we'll hire crew members, which are what we call our hourly staff employees as well, locally. Again, there's over 500 restaurants, closer to 600 at this point, as well as restaurants in the Middle East. And I'll hand it back to Joni.
Thank you. I have a site plan up right now. I have a color one later, but I just want to go over the access to the site, which does impact, we believe, some of the justification for the signage as well. Can I get out of that? Nope. Okay, I just lost my, how do I go back to my presentation? I was trying to get that little thing off. Okay, access to the site is going to be maintained at the 2 existing points off Southern Boulevard, which would go through the church site, which would be right in, right only. Okay, it's a little bit off the screen there. And then also access off of, off of US 441, State Road 7, which is also a right in, right out only. Stacking to the site would be if the patrons or the pass-by recognize the Southern Boulevard entrance, they'd be able to stack throughout the site, and people accessing from State Road 7 would access and stack into the drive-through lanes there. And again, we have 8 stacking lanes available, 8 stacking spaces available in the dual lanes, and then considerable stacking after that as well. This plan shows you in a little bit greater detail the landscape areas we're proposing. This is not doing this right. Okay. We are proposing the restaurant with the 2 drive-through lanes. Special exception will allow for the drive-through restaurant. We are proposing to utilize 21 spaces on the church property, which we have an access agreement with them. That is not inconsistent with the way the Applebee's was done as well. We have agreed as well with the church to limit the hours of operations on Sundays to not begin before 11 a.m. That will allow them to be assured they'll have adequate parking for their parishioners during their Sunday morning services. Okay, this is showing the elevations. On the top is the 40-foot linear elevation facing State Road 7 with our proposed signage on it. And then the one directly below it is the building facade that's about 90 feet in length that would be facing State Southern Boulevard. And the palette for the materials and the colors are gray tones, accent red, brick, stucco, and metal. Okay, we'll go through some of these standards here. In regards to the parking variance, we believe we do meet the criteria for that. We're not inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. We are consistent with the code with the granting of the variance. There's no adverse impact for the special exception request, and staff is in agreement in support of the special exception. In regards to the variance for the parking, your code requires that the parking be calculated on the gross square footage of the entire restaurant, including the outdoor seating area, and the maximum number of employees per shift. In this case, that equates to 59 spaces being required. We are providing 56 spaces and requesting a variance of 3 spaces. 35 of the spaces are being proposed to be on the parcel proper, with the additional 21 spaces on the church site. One of the justifications for this prototype for Raising Cane's is what's called a high-volume kitchen prototype. This is the floor plan for the proposed building. The interior of the building consists of 3,267 gross square feet. However, the dining area available to the patrons inside only consists of 844 square feet, with the outside patio of 366. Based on your requirement of 1 space per 75 square feet of dining area, that would equate to only 16 spots that would be required by code to provide for the customers. So even with this shift change, when you have 10 employees and 10 employees coming potentially at the same time, that would still be well below what is being provided. So we do feel that that meets the intent of the code. I did want to bring to the point that we've been working with staff for a while on this. We've been going back and forth very collaboratively. And we had originally proposed, not unlike the Applebee's, that we utilize some of the off-site spaces in non-operational hours for loading rather than accommodate the loading on site. Staff felt it was very important to have the loading within the site proper. So we did redesign the site, and that is what actually resulted in the loss of the 3 spaces on site. So that I just wanted to point out that we have been working with staff in that regard, and adequate parking is going to be provided. In regards to the criteria, again, the circumstances in regards to parking, I believe we have met that. They do not result in the actions of the applicant. We actually were working with staff to provide the on-site loading. There's no special privilege as any other project within the village would be able to ask for a variance approval as long as they met the criteria. We are meeting the literal interpretation of the code in regards to providing adequate parking. It is the minimum variance required without having to gain additional parking from the church and impact their parking. And it will be in harmony with the general intent of the code and is not interest of public welfare or the area. In regards to the signage variances, I'm not going to focus too much on the dual menu signs. Most of my discussion will be on the wall signage and what we are kind of considering a hybrid sign where the backing is considered a cabinet sign, but it actually has channel letters on top. Again, in regards to the first variance request, which we do have staff support for, it's not unlike other restaurants. Even in the village, I believe the McDonald's has the dual drive-through lanes, which requires the 2 menu boards. It also allows for greater stacking and ability to serve more cars during peak hour times. It's estimated that this type of prototype, really about 70% of their business is at the drive-through. In regard to the cabinet signs are limited to 10 square feet within the village. Again, the branding associated with the restaurant and the trademark copyrighted signage for it has the panel in the back that is cabinet and the channel letters on top. we believe, while this is focusing on the State Road 7 side, again, the other side, the Southern Boulevard facade is 90 linear square feet. So we believe that what we are proposing is less than what we would be able to provide via channel letters. This is what we're proposing for both facades, the 30.67 square feet. And you'll see the red backing in the background, which is the cabinet sign, and then the channel letters on top. This is what we believe would be allowed on the frontage on State Road 7 if we were just doing channel letters. But again, branding is very important for a new business entering a new market, and we feel that this is not going to be obtrusive, especially in regards to the fact that, let me go back here, that both these facades are separated from the travel lanes by a considerable distance. The facade on Southern Boulevard is about 84 feet from the travel lane on Southern Boulevard, and the facade on US 441 or State Road 7 is about 197 feet. So what we're showing here is what we're proposing in relation to the facade lengths of the two facades. This is what we believe would be allowed if as considered a channel sign. So based on the distance from the roadway, the fact that we are located at a major intersection, which is a site speed of the travel, we believe, and be supplemented with the variance approval. Right now, the existing, and you can see the apple. Branding is very important. Point out that this is trademark, that there is actually an act that protects this, and it's very important for a new user to be able to brand itself in a market. And again, this is going to be the first one in South Florida, in this area in Palm Beach County, so we're excited. I know I have a couple of transplants from Texas at my office that are pretty excited. So we do believe we meet the criteria in regards to the circumstances peculiar to the land, not only for the branding that is critical to the industry for new users, but also to the fact that we're located at a major intersection and the separation distance from both roads. No special can ask for it. The sign's still smaller. Harmony, not detrimental to the public. It'll still be screened somewhat. We already went over. It shows 4 of them were palms, which it's the palm still. That concludes my horn here. More questions for Adam?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Time for questions, comments with Commissioner.
This is just the sign. The questions specific. Yes.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you, Mitty. Commissioner Nazareth, any questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question. On part 2 of this problem, the staff is recommending disapproval. Bradford, can you please let me know why? Can they, I mean, they've gone back and forth with us, right? Okay. Okay. Then, ma'am, can you tell us if we can work this out where you can comply with our sign variance? I mean, something that, meet us halfway, because from what Bradford was talking about, I don't see a way out of this.
I understand the concern. I think, though, from the applicant standpoint, and Adam can stop me if I'm saying something that he's not in agreement with, The branding is really important to them, especially entering a new market. Again, the sign is not obtrusive. We'll respect whatever recommendation this board makes, but at this point in time, I think we want to move forward to the village council with the request.
Anything else, Commissioner Nazareth?
No, that's it. That's all I
Thank
have.
you. Commissioner Marquis, any
I have no
questions?
questions.
Commissioner Perrin, any questions or comments?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Leland?
The question I have, Bradford, the only other restaurant that I can think of in the village proper is McDonald's, right? That has 2 drive-thrus?
Correct.
So if we let them do it, why aren't we letting them do it?
No, we are recommending approval on the second drive-through menu board sign. We're recommending denial on the larger cabinet sign.
Okay, I want to make sure of that.
So I have a question, I think, for Bradford or the applicant, I'm not really sure. So my understanding is that because of the red backing on this sign, and I wasn't fully understanding what makes it between a cabinet sign and
Right.
a channel sign. What's
Okay.
the difference?
So the applicant was commingling the term channel letters and cabinet signs. These aren't channel letters that she was referring to. These are letters within a cabinet sign.
Okay.
Channel letters are your individual letters that have well, you see them at the different shopping centers where it's a P,
Got you.
a
Okay.
U, and it spells Publix. Each one with their own face plate on a raceway. Those are channel letters. Those are what's allowed by our code. So what they're proposing is, and what they're describing is, canes as channel letters. Those aren't channel letters. Those are letters within
Sign. Gotcha.
a cabinet sign.
You missed your calling as a teacher, sir. You explained that very well. I'll give you that,
Are you using my hands?
so I have a question. In the rest of the village, are there any other cabinet signs like that have been approved in the past?
There are other cabinet signs. I can't specifically point to a cabinet sign that we have
trying to think
approved
of one.
for a variance, but I know that, and if my memory serves me correctly, Mitty, IHOP or whenever they moved to the Village Royal Palm Beach, applied for a larger cabinet sign and they were denied.
And just a reminder, to sort of go along the same lines, but whether or not there are other variances granted for different signs doesn't have any bearing on this application. Each variance application is considered in and of itself
I'm
based
just
on the
trying to remember
criteria.
where it is. Thank you.
It's irrelevant here.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I'd like to open the floor to public comment.
Mr. Miller, I can
Yes.
probably respond to your question too, or perhaps Adam can. It was my understanding that the letters aren't embedded into the cabinet.
Correct. This is not a thermoplastic sign where you would have a blow mold basically with the letters implanted into the red background. This is actually channel letters. We've tried to meet, to your point, Mr. Nazareth, we've tried to meet the staff and the town's code here. So we've actually the Raising Cane to the slide. Okay. I can show you. Okay, so this, you're not going to be able to see my cursor, but the actual canes part, we have set off of the red plastic here. And actually, I think this is a red metal background is what we're proposing in this scenario. So we have physically formed the canes out of channel letters rather than it being one homogeneous piece of plastic. So typically, yes, a cabinet sign would be one piece of plastic that sits in a lighted background, but this is actually going to have some depth to it. I don't have, unfortunately, a profile to show you, but you would have your red cabinet, and then you would have your letters sticking off of it like this. So it gives more variation and texture to it, and that's where we've tried to meet in the middle.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the commission? Okay. Now I'll go to public comment. Anyone in the public to make? No. Anyone online to make any public comment, Christina?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to close the floor to public comment. Before we make a motion, I just remind the commissioners there are 2 items on this, and staff is requesting approval for item number 1 in this agenda item, or first part, and then disapproval for the second part. Just reminding you before we make any motions. So, are there any motions on this agenda item?
Are we voting twice on this,
It can be done through one motion. Just one motion can include both, because it's two variances are being requested, but you need to approve it or deny it as part of one motion. You can handle both in one motion that you make.
It can be, what you're saying is it can be approval in part and a denial in part, or complete approval or complete denial.
And you can reference them.
They're explaining to me. That's great.
It's the hands.
Okay, so commissioners, do we need to have a motion on this item?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve part 1 and deny part 2 as read.
A motion made by Commissioner Nazareth to approve the agenda item part 1, but disapprove agenda item part 2. Okay.
And just so the record is clear, before you get a second on that, Mr. Nazareth,
Yes,
part 1 is the variance requesting the second menu pricing sign.
That's correct.
Your motion is to approve the second menu sign, but recommend denial on the cabinet sign.
on
Is
the
that
cabinet
correct?
signs.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sir.
Thank you, Mitty, for that clarification. That's the motion made by Commissioner Nazareth.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by motion made by Commissioner Leland. All in favor?
Aye.
So that was
Aye.
1, 2, and then 3. Okay, all opposed? Okay, so this motion passes 3-2. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item number 4, application number 21-32, PVAR, Raising Cane's. The applicant, Raising Cane's Restaurant LLC, is requesting parking variance from section 23-51 2Q to allow for 56 parking spaces inclusive of 21 spaces via cross-parking agreement, where village code requires 59 spaces, a variance of 3 spaces for a property located 100 North State Road 7. Committee, over to you.
Thank you. Again, the applicants in this item have been sworn. I'll just ask the commissioner if there are any ex parte disclosures with regard to 21-32 that need to be disclosed.
No.
Nope.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Bradford, do you have another presentation on this, sir?
I do. As you stated, the subject site is located on the northeast corner of Southern Boulevard and State Road 7, where the Applebee's restaurant is currently located. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the required parking spaces from 59 parking spaces to 56 parking spaces for the proposed Raising Cane's restaurant. Request results in a variance of 3 parking spaces. The applicant has entered into a cross-parking agreement with the Christ Fellowship Church to allow cross-parking with the church for 21 of the required 59 parking spaces. The criteria for granting variances is set forth in 2632 F6B. That special circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, result from the actions of the applicant. Will not confer on the applicant any special privileges, and the literal interpretation of the provisions of this division would deprive the applicant of the rights commonly enjoyed by other properties. The variance granted is the minimum variance that will make reasonable use of the property, will be in harmony with the general intent of and purpose of the division, will not be injurious to the areas involved, detrimental to the public welfare. And I will spare you my quote of the applicant's justification, since they have so eloquently portrayed that to us today. Staff is not in support of this variance. No special conditions or circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands. The condition is a result from the actions of the applicant, will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands, and the literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant of rights enjoyed by other lands. However, it is important to note that the applicant has, in staff's view, brought forth the minimum variance that makes possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure by reaching out to the church in order to reduce the variance request through a cross-parking agreement. Therefore, staff is recommending denial of this application to be submitted to request a recommendation of denial to be submitted to Village Council With that being said, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bradford. Does the applicant want to make any additional presentations or any statements?
I guess the only statement is, we were, as I indicated, we were meeting it, we redesigned, and rather than go back to the church, because that's a arduous process, we elected to ask for the variance. However, based on our justification, we really do not believe this restaurant will warrant even the spaces we're providing.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I did just want to provide some background and context on our work with the church today. Since this project started at the beginning of the year, we've probably gone back to them several times with asks. So it's not that we just don't want to ask for these 3 parking spaces. We've asked for a lot from them, and they've been willing to meet us there, and their hand is kind of closed at this point. So we're also under a lease obligation to have entitlements secured by October 22nd, so there really isn't any time to renegotiate anything with them.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the information. Okay. Commissioner, excuse me. Commissioners, any comments, questions, or discussion on this item? We'll start with Commissioner Leland.
Didn't you say before that that type of variance was given by the church to Applebee's?
No.
It was not.
No. Applebee's didn't require this type of a variance. What maybe was heard is that Applebee's is allowing the applicant to have 21 spaces of cross parking, to reduce their variance request to 3 parking spaces rather than the larger amount of 24 parking spaces.
Actually, I think it was that Applebee's also had the cross parking.
They had cross parking, right?
But we're working with the church now, so and it was Target at the time, I believe.
Right. So there was a cross. Target and Christ Fellowship Church after Christ Fellowship Church moved in, but it wasn't a variance request.
Thank you.
Difference in terms.
Okay. Commissioner Perrin, any questions or comments?
No comments or questions?
Thank you, Commissioner Markey.
Nothing for me.
Excuse me, Commissioner Nazareth.
Yes, I have a question. The church is allowing the applicant an easement.
Yes, an easement to get to their property and a cross parking agreement.
And therefore also those 3 parking spots to
There are
mitigate.
3 parking. There are 3 parking spots. 3 parking spots
Spaces,
short.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Are there any public comments? Anyone online?
No.
Thank you. I'll close the floor to public comment. I'd like to request a motion be made on this agenda item.
I'll make a motion we approve application 21-32.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Markey for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Perrin. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I do.
Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. And we'll move on to the last agenda item on this meeting. Application number 21-30, SPM AAR SE, Raising Cane's. The applicant, Raising Cane's Restaurant LLC, is requesting a major site plan modification, architectural approval, and a special exemption approval for a 3,267 square foot restaurant with drive-through in a general commercial zoning district, inclusive of 366 square feet of outdoor dining area for a property located 100 North State Road 7. Mitty, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Since the applicants have been sworn, I'll ask the commission if there are any ex parte disclosures with regard to 21-30.
No.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Bradford, to you, sir.
Thank you again. I'm going to breeze through this. I think that we're all kind of wrapped our minds around this. The applicant is requesting site plan modification, special exception use, and architectural approval in order to develop a 3,267 square foot restaurant with drive-through on a 1.3 acre parcel of land within the center formerly known as Target Shopping Center. The subject site is currently occupied by Applebee's. The restaurant with drive-through is listed as special exception use in the general commercial zoning district. The restaurant with drive-through will include a 366 square foot outdoor seating area. The applicant is also seeking architectural approval, building architectural colors, signs, and landscape plan. In reviewing the application, village staff considered conformity with Chapter 26 of Village Code of Ordinances, specifically proposed project meets the requirements of the General Commercial Zoning District as it relates to parcel size, parcel width, setbacks, pervious area, landscape plan with the exception of the waiver request to eliminate 5 of the 9 required trees within the northern perpendicular divider strip, parking requirements, without the reduction of the 3 parking spaces of the village code, required 59 spaces, maximum building height, queuing, bypass lane. Here's an illustration of the site plan. The applicant went over the ingress egress points, the drive-through lane areas. This is the landscape plan which meets village code, with the exception of the perpendicular landscape island to the north. Here's the architecture. Good looking building. Here's an illustration of the proposed signage. Again, for the record, the sign raising canes had a recommendation of denial. Overall, the proposed site plan is in conformance with the village's requirements for the General Commercial Zoning District Special Exception Use Approvals. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of application number 2130, SPAAR SE, and resolution 2119 be submitted to Village Council. With that being said, I'll turn the floor back over to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Bradford. Would the applicant like to say any additional words for this item?
You're earning your money tonight,
No,
huh?
no, sir. Thank you. Covered everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Nazareth?
No comment.
Commissioner Marquis? Commissioner Perrin?
No comments or questions.
Commissioner Leland?
No comment.
And I have none either. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. I don't see anyone still in the building. Anyone online?
No.
Thank you, Christina. I'd like to close the floor to public comment. So I'd like to request a motion made on this agenda item.
And Mr.
1
Chair, if
second.
we could just really quickly,
Sure.
for the record.
Sorry, if a part of our, if there is a motion and a motion to approve, that motion, if we could include that the architectural approval for the Raising Cane's cabinet sign is not part of your recommendation, since it was denied.
So we would make a motion to approve the agenda item except for
To exclude the architectural approval.
An exclusion.
Right.
Or
Right.
what we could do is, with the condition, if you make a motion to approve this application, the condition would be that the variance be granted. Should the variance not be granted, the applicant would have to revise their AAR submittal to reduce the cabinet sign. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So should you make a motion tonight to approve the site plan, SE, and AAR application, your approval would need to contain a condition that if the village council does not grant the variance with regard to that cabinet sign, the architectural drawings need to be revised to reduce that cabinet sign square footage.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So with that all being said, do I have a motion on this agenda item?
I approve exactly what Mindy said. We approve the application 2130, but we have the variance on the cabinet sign that could be approved later on.
So your condition, just so the record is clear, your condition is one of approval on the condition that the village council grant the variance for the cabinet sign. In the event that that's not granted, the AAR portion of the application is revised to reduce that sign square footage.
Yes, that is
Thank
correct.
you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion made by Commissioner Perrin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Marquis, who has to repeat the actual agenda item. Just kidding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. Thank you. We appreciate all the work tonight and all the
Yes.
presentations.
When do you
Thank
think
you.
this restaurant
All
will
the
be
best.
open?
Yeah. Next summer?
Great. Okay. Thank
I gotta
you.
wait till then to get chicken fingers.
Thank you so much. So,
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Good luck. Okay.
good luck.
All the best.
The next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission will be Tuesday, October 26, 2021. Before we adjourn, don't leave. We do have one more meeting, guys.
Yes.
I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion made
I'll second.
by Leland and seconded by, I don't know who that was. I'm going to say Phil. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. So we are adjourned. I am now going to call the meeting of the, gotta look through my papers. I'd like to call the local planning agency meeting on Tuesday, September 28th, 2021 at 7 p.m. to order. Christina, can you do the roll call, please?
Chairman Adam Miller,
Present.
Vice Chair Philip Marquis,
Present.
Commissioner June Perrin,
Present.
Commissioner David Leland,
Gone.
Commissioner Ray Nazareth,
Physically here.
Laura McClellan, Gerald Brown, Jan Radusky, Mitty Barnard.
Okay, thank you, Christina. The minutes will be brought back next month, is my understanding. I'd like to turn it over to Mitty before we get to the agenda items.
Yes, thank you. And as I'm sure you all noticed in your backup, there was a lack of backup. We are still working on these two. We set them for time certain. So with regard to public hearing on October 26, 2021 at 7 p.m., which is your next meeting. Same thing for ordinance 1020. It was a rush to get it to you, and we're still making a few modifications, so my apologies on that. But again, we'd like to reset 1020 to time certain by October 26, 2021 at 7 p.m. And you don't have to do anything official. We've set them now by time. We don't have to re-advertise them. They'll be on next month's agenda. While I have the floor, if I may, your next meeting is October 26th, but as you know, we are getting into holiday season, so Bradford and I discussed earlier this week getting confirmation from you all tonight about your holiday plans. The next meeting after October is obviously the Thanksgiving conflict. That meeting date is November 23rd. If you don't have to tell us tonight, but we were just going to kind of poll you tonight to see if anybody is scheduled to be out of town this year. I know last year people stayed a bit closer to home because of COVID, but if anybody knows that they're going to be gone, that is obviously the Tuesday right before Thanksgiving. If you could let us know. And then similarly in December, the meeting is scheduled for, your normal meeting date is the 28th, which is right after the Christmas holiday and in between New Year. So what Bradford and I discussed was rescheduling that to the 20th, if that works for you all. That's a Monday night rather than a Tuesday.
The Monday night of the week before.
Of the week prior to Christmas.
The way we can kind of go into the holiday season having completed this business.
That's okay with me?
Yeah,
Commissioners?
I'm fine.
The 20th?
I'm not sure about me yet.
Christina will send, if you're okay with this, Bradford,
Yep,
we'll send
of
an
course.
email with those dates, and then if you could just respond to the email so that we're certain we have a quorum. We are expecting that there will be agenda items, so it is important to have the quorum, but you guys are always very good about that. So after this meeting, we'll send an email.
I just want to let Commissioner Phil know that I won't be able to do the 23rd in November, so, unless they want to do a different date, you'd have to run the meeting. So just giving you a heads up, man.
No drinking that night.
You will be the man.
So the November date wouldn't work for me.
Okay, very good. And we'll send a formal email, and you can all respond with your availability. But those are the only discussion items I had. Go ahead, sir.
Bradford, just a question.
Sure.
I know we kind of showed that we have the position, especially on Southern Boulevard, that we've never wanted to, grant any variances for signage there, especially the car dealers wanting bigger and
Right.
more signs. And my thinking's always been, my exact words have been in this commission was, I don't want to see Southern Boulevard turn into the Vegas Strip.
Right.
And I understand why we were saying no to item 2 on that thing, because we're setting a precedent to let other guys open that door.
Sure. Exactly.
But my concern is the village council going to see what we're recommending? Because a lot of times we make recommendations and they just ignore it.
Can we call him tomorrow and talk offline about that?
Right. Yeah, we'll talk to you offline tomorrow
Okay.
about that.
Okay, I think I need an adjournment, a motion
Yes, sir,
to
that's all that's
adjourn
before the
local
LPA. Thank
planning
you.
agency. Do we have a motion to?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
So Commissioner Marquis, do I have a second? Commissioner Leland, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we are adjourned. I hope everyone has a great month. See you next time. Thank you, everyone.
So December